Okay. Jason, just do that when you get in here if I haven't done it.
Okay, I'll do that from now on.
All right. So,
I've got a question
who all's
for you,
open?
Ed.
Who's doing stuff? Quick
Ed,
update. Chris.
can you hear
Christopher.
me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Sorry. So what kind of barcode scanner do you need to scan off of a shiny screen? Because I can't get any of ours to do it, so I don't know.
Let me show you the ones we're using.
Is there a specific technology that they require?
Because I happen to have one in a box right behind me. It's a symbol. I can find the number on it. We specifically chose these because they're the omnidirectional ones. And it just sits like that, omnidirectional. It sends out a bunch of different things. It's a symbol. Wow, that's small.
Does it have LEDs or a laser?
Got me. When you move your card under it, it has almost a green mesh. And you can put it any direction, and it reads all the phones we've tested it on. It seems to work. I'm sure there's some that it's not. If it's a terrible picture, it may not work. The only thing we're having some problems with is some of our cards begin to wear out, and when the corners fold up so badly on the ends that it won't read that because it's missing part of the barcode.
Okay, thank you.
Let's see if I can send you the model number. It's a symbol DS 9208.
9208. Okay. Thank you.
All right.
We are open with social distancing parameters in play. We have some of our public access computers available. We don't have any catalog computers available yet. We have story walks out. There's kind of a walking park out in front. So we have some limited, events. I received permission to open Code Club back up again with social distancing enforced. So we're getting there, but it hasn't been a real bad deal here. COVID-19 hasn't been really bad, like 20 cases or less in this area.
Well, the DFW area is not too bad comparatively. And our county is less than Dallas County and a few of the others.
Yeah, we have, I think there's about 40 cases in between the county I live in and the county that our library's in, and most of them have been in the county I live in. So we've been on, it's weird, like about half of us live in Whitman County and have been on much stricter lockdown than our library has been on. So that's been kind of weird. But we're doing curbside, and we have been for a while, and then I think next week maybe we're going to start doing computers by appointment, where people could schedule an appointment to come in and do the computer, and maybe some limited hours for browsing, not at the same, because we've got a lot of complaints from regular patrons. Our director has about that they can't browse, and they don't have computers, so they can't go on and put on holds. They can call and we'll help them we'll put on holds for them, but we're also only there kind of limited hours, and we can help some with reader's advisory, but a lot of times they just want to browse. They just want to go walk through and look, and so there's some talk about maybe opening up with really limited hours, but we haven't really figured out how we would do that to make it work.
Mm.
And we're doing all our summer reading online and distance. So like they can print off from our website or pick up summer reading stuff at the curbside pickup.
We also have, it used to be you could just go to the computer and, sit down and use the session with your library card, but we have to make reservations now. Same type of thing that you're planning to go to. What system do you use for PC management?
We have PC reservation right now.
Okay.
What do you use for?
Same.
Okay.
Envisionware PC reservation.
We've looked into LibKey, but until their printing is better,
Yeah, that's our biggest hang up too.
because we also have the LPT1 through Envisionware and like wireless printing. Although our like mobile printing doesn't get used very much except by me. I'll mobile print from home stuff and then use it, but we probably have like one patron a month that uses it, and it's usually because they come in when all the computers are full, but they can print what they have off their phone, and
Gotcha.
one of us walks them through it. But it's not something we'd like to lose if we switch to like LibKey.
Mm-hmm.
When we opened up the downtown library in May, we didn't require reservations. We just moved all of our computers around. So all the computers are well beyond 6 feet of each other. And they have not been swarmed with, we thought they'd get a lot more use than they are right now.
Yeah.
Of course, we think a lot of folks are just being more cautious. And,
How are you like disinfecting your keyboards?
Since we're not open, I'm not as keyed into that quite yet. I think what they're doing, what we have here and what we're doing for staff keyboards in the joint areas is a combination of the Clorox wipes, all on the keyboards, or we've got some, I'll call disinfectant spray that we'll use with paper towels, depending on which station you're at, depending on what things we have. But it's that we're wiping down the desk area, the keyboards, the mice, all of that. I did have to jump on the staff at Hall downtown because they were spraying the bleach-based, alcohol-based spray directly on the touch screens and then wiping them down. And so I had to say, please don't do that. Put it on the device. There's specific things that clean those. Let's use those instead. So.
We're going to be using 70% or higher isopropyl alcohol. And granted, we're a special collection and a museum library, but we were just having a discussion about the fact that our safety officer had brought in hand sanitizer, but hand sanitizer can leave residues that are potentially damaging to collections. So we're having to have those hand sanitizer dispensers removed and order way more supplies of the isopropyl alcohol and paper towels for sanitizing computers, work surfaces, tables, et cetera, et cetera.
For
I
staff
have libraries
computers.
using shower caps and Glad wrap on their keyboards. I don't know how that's going, but
I'm sorry. I find that ridiculous.
it's
Yeah.
not my
Unless you're-
department, so.
Unless you're changing it between each patron.
Yeah.
What does that do?
They wipe them down, I think. So it's easier to clean the plastic than it is to clean between the keys, I think was the theory. I don't really know.
It's a theory.
The other reasoning I've seen people use for that is that the alcohol-based cleaning products and bleach cleaning products can get in between the keys on keyboards and stuff and damage the inside theoretically. Or with keyboards can like rip off the lettering, which we have patrons complain about, even if there's only one letter that's too worn off to see.
You know, the last time I checked, these are about $15 a pop.
Yeah. One
Is
thing we talked
anybody-
about.
Sorry.
You go ahead.
Is anybody using ultraviolet?
No, because that endangers our
would-
collections.
But I mean for like keyboards or mice or anything like that, or desktops.
We found it's not worth investing in that sort of technology since it would be so tiny specific a use.
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying, because they're not cheap, especially right now.
Right.
Yeah. Our computers are not on tables where we can like, our library is set up really weird. It would be difficult for us to move all of our computers away from each other. So we're thinking of just taking like the keyboards and mice from some of them, and then we can like change them out in between. And I think we have enough keyboards that we could even like, if we're just doing computers by appointment, we could wipe them down, but then let them sit for a couple days before reusing them, because we have like a ton of backup. We have a box that's like huge, that's just got like 50 of our keyboards we use for patron computers, plus some extras upstairs, because our computers seem to really run through, our patrons really run through the keyboards, and so we're talking about just like wiping them down, but then also probably trading them out as much as we can, just in case something's not getting wiped down.
You know, we were fortunate enough to be able to have the network folks immediately create a wireless network for us within each location that's specifically for public computers. It's a totally separate wireless network than the public wireless network or our staff network. And we've moved all of our public computers to that network. So all we need is a power cord.
Yeah.
Which has given us that flexibility to move things around and do that. And then through Envision, where we renamed everything in a naming convention that identifies where they are within the building.
Nice. We only have like 4 unused power outlets throughout our library. Yeah. We're hopefully updating our library, renovating it soon, and we'll be able to add more power. But for now, like we actually have a non-public public Wi-Fi for some of our computers that are far away from Ethernet ports, but the power is our real issue.
There's a question on the quarantining in the chat. Heather, I see you're using 72 hours.
Well, we're planning on 72 hours, but I was in a webinar next week with a speaker from NEDCC, which I believe is the Northeast Document Conservation Center, saying they may be revising their recommendations up to 7 days. And since we are a very low use special collection, we could do a longer 7-day quarantine, but I'm double checking that. I'll see if I can find a link.
We've been
Yeah,
using 72 hours, but like I was saying earlier, we're like more than a week behind anyway. So we're in practice, we're quarantining for like a week. But if we ever get caught up, our plan was to quarantine for 3 days at a time.
We were quarantining for 72 hours. We've cut that back greatly. And because the building's not open, everything's at least sitting here for 24 hours. And what we did is everything checked out for 2 weeks. And what we did instead is we gave everybody an extra week. We've changed our whole circulation policy to go to 3 weeks, and we'll hold an item for you for up to 7 days. So when the hold is available for you, if you don't want it then wait a couple of days and come get it then. So you can have it quarantined there for yourself as long as you want to leave it up to 7 days. We'll see how it works out.
I do know that Demco, I think it was Demco, was having some library materials specifically tested, and I thought they were supposed to have results at the beginning of June, but I haven't heard anything. Has anyone heard anything about that? Okay.
I remember hearing that they were doing tests, but yeah, I haven't heard any results.
Yeah, I don't think there's a link to the
Okay.
study they're conducting or information about the study they're conducting, but I don't think there's anything conclusive yet.
Any systems type things, not that this is not systems, but you know. Has anybody had their upgrade yet?
Yes, we upgraded last month. We're an early adopter, so we updated pretty early. Here, let me pull. I think we were updating like the same week as the last meeting from this. I'm gonna pull up tickets. We were pretty good. Our jQuery, nothing broke, which is like the first time since I've worked at the library that none of our jQuery broke on either the patron or staff side, just from like a table changing, adding an extra column or something. We are having kind of a weird thing. There's a write-off problem where if you're trying to write off selected, it won't let you. If part of the fine has already been paid or written off, it tells you it's too high. And there's already been a patch signed off and passed QA, so it might be fixed for people who are updating. And then the news editor was gone. You could still edit it HTML, but the visual editor was gone, and Lucas was able to patch that with some jQuery for us right away. And I think that patch has also already been pushed, but even if it hasn't, I'm sure he'll be setting up the jQuery for people.
Did anything else get moved to the news editor like happened last time?
Let's see. I'm trying to remember what I think.
Thinking something else was.
I think something did. Let me go look and see
One of
which.
the navs.
Yeah, I think the OPAC nav. Oh, that's totally the wrong page.
OPAC nav.
So let's see. We've got OPAC News and OPAC Nav Right are both in there now. So the OPAC Nav Right, I think, was this time.
The new one. Yeah. Okay.
Um,
I'll be interested to see how that looks tomorrow. We're getting upgraded tonight.
oh, cool. And then we're having some weird stuff with our transfer slips, but we think that might have to do with our very weird, just the way that our consortium is set up right now because of like some of the libraries being open, and like our district is allowing transfers between the district, but we're not doing transfers with the rest of the consortium right now. And none of the rest of the consortium is doing transfers except another district. And sometimes we get like a weird second receipt that prints out that just says, it'll print the transfer slip, and then after it'll print no slip template found on its own tiny slip. Yeah. And that didn't start happening until after the update, but we also, like, within the first week after the update was when we started doing transfers with our branches. So we're not sure if it's something that would have happened anyway, or if it was because of the update.
Okay.
And those, I think
Okay.
that's like all our tickets from the update. The claims return feature works very nicely.
Barbara, you say a lot of your jQuery broke. Are you only chatting or microphone today? Well, I will let her respond there.
We also got that tab, or the transactions tab in accounting that shows unexpected type found during upgrade. I I think that was because they moved like credit types and debit types into their own tables or into different tables. And if you go in to where you can edit those tables, you can like rename. I think it's just the way that it updated them. If it wasn't something that was already in the system, it just said, it made the description like, we don't know what this is. And you can go in and fix that on most of them. I did find there were a couple that I couldn't edit that I think must have been the old, like some very old ones that had been hard coded in that had already been superseded by something else, but that there were still records somewhere that had it, so it got updated. But you can also archive those so then they don't show up as many places. And that, where can you edit that? That's under, yeah, there's like the account and debit types under admin home. I think is where that came from.
Okay. So, Barbara, when did you all have your upgrade? Has anybody else other than Barbara and Lisette already been through the upgrade?
Ours is on Friday.
Okay,
Ours
so
is this weekend.
ours is tonight. I see Danny's here, so she's listening to all the, oh, did she just go away? There she is. She's listening to all the people about the work she's got to do.
See if there's anything I can pick up.
And I imagine we'll talk a lot about updates at the general meeting tomorrow as well.
The general koha meeting,
Mhm.
or koha-US.
I know in the sidebar, the Bywater, for us, Bywater has a report that you can run for the guarantor to find what guarantor stuff needs to be changed. Do you know if there's anything similar for the debit types, or is that,
So oh, sorry.
go ahead.
The report that they put in our sidebar, which is still there because I haven't gone and deleted it, it also does where the account type is, account and debit types are the old way. It brings back any of the reports.
Oh,
And
okay.
I actually made a small change where you can now, to the report, which I'll put in the chat, where you can click on the report ID to go into the edit. Because then I figure less clicks if I can click directly from the.
One of our goals is eventually to go cashless and not deal with money except in a digital format, which is proving a little more complicated than we'd like it to be. Going no fines made it a whole lot easier. I'm trying to work with PayPal to get us set up to have the PayPal plug it, to use PayPal. That's proving harder than I expected it to be. Opened up communication with PayPal. Within an hour, somebody was on the phone with me. We spoke. He was supposed to send me information. We were going to start setting up because government, it's got to go through the city attorney's office. It's got to be signed by the city manager, all of this stuff. He said he'd get that stuff to me. It's been 2.5 weeks and I've not heard anything. And I keep emailing back to nothing. So I'm not happy at the moment with PayPal.
So Barbara said when the patron is logged in the new drop-down box, it's just showing the word your, which takes you to your account. Ours doesn't have that, but we had, we use the Galadriel plugin, I think, for our OPAC. So it might be that the way that that does things hides that problem.
I'll bet that's a jQuery problem.
They did add a bunch of, well, not a bunch, some different stylings and classes and stuff to the OPAC. So I know that I have to go in because a bunch of my links look like buttons right now. I need to fix that stuff. And that what the area that Barbara's talking about doesn't exist in our current version. Up in the top right where the patron's logged in, there's a little drop down there that's not there in 1905. So there's some weird styling going on there too for us.
I'm really worried about our OPAC styling. Eventually I've got to totally redo our OPAC. It is using some old CSS that was built by Michael when he was still with Bywater, and it's pointing to a GitHub site holding that CSS that he manages. And I've got to get it off of all of that and redo all of it. But it hasn't been a priority. This upgrade may make it a priority. Barbara mentioned slowness on the OPAC. Has anybody else seen that?
You know, now that you mention it, maybe, because I haven't done very much searching on the OPAC, and I kind of thought some of our searching was because the stuff I have been doing is mostly like, we have some buttons on our website that we had to update because we also updated to Elasticsearch last month, like a week after our upgrade, and we had some buttons to like our new DVDs and stuff to make it easy for our patrons, and you have to update those links because the URLs look different. And so like those took a while, but I also have a bunch of parameters because I have it for like set to our group and set to new DVD shelving location and have it set to order. And that link was always a little bit slow, but I just did like a basic search and it did take longer than I would have expected. I haven't heard complaints from anyone else though.
Our test server's slow, but our test server's slow. So I don't have a point of reference.
So I have what may be a fairly basic question to shift gears here. We're in our migration right now. Our official go live date is tomorrow. We've just started getting back into our buildings, staff only, and I've started playing around some with our hardware. And I'm just wondering, in terms of spine label printers, do most everyone seem to use the batch mode? Because so far what we've got is individual Zebra spine label printers at each station that prints from a roll of labels. And the quick spine label printer doesn't seem to be very robust, but it seems there's a lot more support for the batch mode. I'm just wondering how people do with that. And secondarily, we have some people in tech services who have both a receipt printer and a spine label printer connected, and managing both of those in Windows, it always seems to want to use the margins of one and not the other. I just don't know if anyone else has run into these issues and had any suggestions or tips.
We don't use the spine label printer. I don't think anyone in our consortium does. But I know we do have some people who do receipt printing and regular printing and have that problem sometimes. And it's like every time she switches between, it wants to reset the margins. It won't save her margin settings. And so she started just printing to the regular printer from not the same computer.
Our solution for that is to use different browsers. So they use Firefox for printing to like paper, and then Chrome to print to the label printer or receipt printer or something. But we do have the same experience. We have a few libraries that use label printers, and they do just use the quick print. The formatting, like you said, isn't very robust. And some of them had to actually go in and adjust their strategies because they wanted more to print on the label than that was actually in the field. So a lot of my libraries just type up their own labels, which I know is clunky and old-fashioned, but it gives them more control over it than printing directly from Koha. So yeah.
Most of ours is full process, so we don't print a lot of them. The material comes with a spine label on it already. However, if we're doing relabeling projects, which we're doing a genreification, we were just starting a genreification as all this COVID stuff happened. So when we change those, we use the batch one. Works beautifully for that. We do have a number of people that have the Zebra label printers, and they use those for one-offs. They use the software that comes with it. So they just copy paste it into that Zebra software and print it out into the settings that they've got there.
Okay, well, thank you all. I've gotten some new ideas. I'm also glad to see that some of you are coming up with some of the same things. We were looking at different browser profiles to use, and that was something. But when you've got 3 printers, it doesn't always work. You kind of run out of browsers and browser profiles very quickly. But thank you all.
Yeah, I will say that we've done that as well. We set up a second profile in Firefox, so it like silent prints to the label printer in one profile, but not the other. So that it is an option that has seemed to work for the most part. But and another option that we've done is to set up a template in Publisher that can then be more customizable. But again, you have to either copy and paste, like Heather's saying, or type those out. So it's not as handy as just printing directly from Koha.
Good question, Jeff. Thank you.
I'm sure I may come up with more in the coming weeks as we start using it more in production. But thank you.
Well, that's why we're here, not just to talk about our opening and closing procedures.
I'd like to ask a question if I may. Let me share my screen here. Let's see here. Oh, I can't.
Let me fix that. I can. They changed the security stuff on us. Okay, you should be able to share now.
Okay. Let's see here. I need this guy here. Can all y'all see that?
Yep.
Transport cost matrix. So we've got a number of branches. One of the branches came on live probably April 1st, I believe it was. It's this one down here, Wasatch County Library. And we don't have a courier set up between them yet, but we have a courier between all the others. Okay. And so what we've been trying to do until we can get that courier set up is to weight the Wasatch County Library stuff so much that things don't go on hold from across the system. So things stay within our area, but not in the Wasatch County area. So this was kind of my solution. I, put a weight of 100 on Wasatch there and over here on the, oops, on this side, on the right side. But we're still getting holds for those items, and they're still getting holds for our items. Anybody have any suggestions on how to prevent that without stopping the transfers to the other branches?
So in the circ and fine rules, you could change what the new library's rules to only allow holds from hold policy down there from home library. Change that to, oh wait, no, let's see. I'm trying to think because we changed a lot of our settings when we went into lockdown. Our circ and fine rule, or our hold policy rules, we changed to follow the patron's home library, and then set everyone who wasn't doing transfers, like kind of as we started closing, to only be from home library. And so
is it this guy up here or this guy right here that you're talking
the
about?
first one,
First one.
yeah, that it looks like the home policy is set to from home library, but it has to follow the, let me look at how we have our settings set up.
Thank you.
Because there's two rules for like two global system preferences for if it follows the,
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
and I think, let's see.
See that the global system preferences is what you've set to follow the hold policy of the patron, correct?
Yeah, so the reserves control branch checks the patron's home library to see if the patron can place a hold on the item. And then all the libraries that are still not doing transfers have it like that.
Reserves what, sorry?
Reserves control branch.
Items home library, patron's home library. Huh. Okay.
That's how we made it work. There's also the branch transfers table where you could turn off transfers between, yeah, the library transfer limits, I guess, is what it's actually called.
Is that a system pref?
It's a koha administration. It's like it's right above the transportation costs matrix in the just like administration section. Although I don't know if it messes things up to use both. Someone had recommended to us to just clear out the transfer limits when we were trying to cancel all the transfers or like stop transfers from happening.
Is it the library? Oh, this
Yeah,
one
library
right here.
transfer limits. And then if you go to, if you select your branch,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's a clear all button.
That guy.
If you do the one at the top, it'll clear all for all item types.
For everything.
And then when you save, it'll take a couple minutes probably. You don't have as many branches as us, but I think you might have to scroll to the bottom of the page to.
Okay. We had looked at this before, but so basically what you do is you say, for this item type, art, don't allow transfer to this guy down here, and then check all these boxes so that the other branches can transfer.
So this one is just for, you have to do it for each branch. Yeah, and if you, so if you do it for the other branches, you can just go and clear out the new branch from each item type. And there is, I think there might be a branch, a system preference to tell it to, yes, check this table when I'm doing transfers.
So alternative, just a different option that we are using the transport cost matrix, but we just disabled like the libraries we don't want transfers to go to. So instead of weighting them high, we just completely turn them off in the transport cost matrix, and I think that's working.
In the transport cost matrix.
Yeah.
See, we did that. We had, the red in the cell, but it still put holds on them, and we're like, why? So we like, okay, if everybody else is less than 1, we'll choose 100 for them, and hopefully that'll do it. And it still hasn't done it. It's frustrating. It's better, but
There is you probably have the system preference set for that where it tells it to respect the transport cost matrix when filling holds. I don't remember what that one's called.
use transport cost matrix. Yeah.
I think it's a different one because it's got like 3 options. It's static holds something. I just thought static holds Q8. That's not the same though. For some reason, I'm thinking that affected us because oh, it's because we're using yeah, that's different. I don't know.
Okay.
But that came into play at some point in relation to our transport cost matrix. I think it's because it's using the calendar to turn things on and off in the transport cost matrix. All right, I don't know either.
Okay.
And also, I think it might be even if you have them disabled, it's still allowing holds if they're the only ones that can fill the hold. So if
Say
they're
that
the only
again.
copy
Sorry.
available.
I was writing something down. I apologize.
That's okay. So like right now, actually I don't. I have one library that's closed right now. So if I turn them off and they're the only library that has an item available, it's still gonna give them that hold on their queue because they're the only ones that can fill it, even if they're disabled, I think. But we have it set so that it doesn't show up on their queue if they're closed on the calendar. So even if they're the only one available, it's not showing up on their queue. So there's some weird interactions there.
All right. Thank you, guys and gals.
One quick thing. Did everybody watch the Monday Minute yesterday? Well,
tell us about it.
Jason gets a good shout out during that. Y'all ought to watch it. Jason, do you know, do they have plans to merge that with the main Bywater website?
I think it's just within the Bywater website. I don't know. I have no idea.
You didn't watch it either, did you?
I did.
Okay. Well,
and then I saw George like talking me up in the Slack, and I was.
They've got a separate URL for it. You can't get to it through the main. If you go to the blog post, you can get to it there, but it's a separate URL, and it looks like they're doing a revamp of their whole website. But it's hard to tell. I may have to ask Jay-Z or Kelly. But it's very well done. You ought to go see the work.
Yeah, I wish, yeah, I wanted them to do this, so I'm glad they did because it's hard to navigate through their blog posts, but having it organized like this is very nice.
Yeah, Lisette put the link in the chat for anybody that wants to go look at it. All right. Do we have anything else? Anybody else have any good questions or bad questions?
Is anybody using Aspen Discovery? We're in the process of moving to Aspen Discovery in the next couple of weeks here. So I was just curious if anybody else has done that.
We do at the Uinta County Library. I'll put my email in the chat and the Discovery interface too.
Yeah, we use it too. We've been using it actually. We started using Pica about 3 years ago, which is the precursor to it, and then we were using that when we were still on Sierra. Then we switched as we started our migration to Koha. We found out that Mark Noble and his company had joined up with Bywater, and they were able to migrate us to a version of Aspen still pointed to Sierra to kind of bridge us over this gap here. And now we're going to have Aspen pointed to Koha starting tomorrow. And yeah, we've been very, very pleased with Pica and very, very pleased with Aspen. And Mark has just been great to work with, and it really has worked well for us. So I'll give you my email address too if you have any questions. I'll put that in chat.
The only downside is that there isn't a lot of documentation. It's open source, but the documentation is kind of like in videos, so it's hard to search, things like that. But that's something that Bywater's working on.
Yeah, we would like to do it. It's just too expensive right now with all the other stuff going on. We
Yeah.
It's really
we got
a great
two quotes.
tool.
We got 2 quotes from them, and they're both higher than we'd like. And there's a huge, what we considered to be an exorbitant cost for the training that was only online, and we decided that was a little more than we wanted to pay, and tried to get that axed from the contract, but they wouldn't let us do that, so we're stopped.
I'm kind of excited to see that you guys at Central are getting it, because I couldn't convince Roger to foot the bill for it. But if other Kansas consortium are doing it, maybe we can get peer pressured into it.
There you go. Okay, thank you. Yeah, we've actually been doing training for about 5 or 6 weeks already, and our go live date is on the 20th or the 18th.
For Aspen.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Do you have a lot of special collections? Is that why you're using? See, that's our thing. It does so many cool things, but we would not be using most of them.
I want it strictly for Ferberization, because
That's
been our,
exactly why we
yeah.
want it.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that was the biggest thing, and also we have a hard time getting patrons to learn how to use the current Koha OPAC, and we feel like this would be way more intuitive for them. It also has great features for consortiums, and that's something that really attracted us to that as well.
Yeah, it's also got a very nice built-in thing to manage patron suggestions, which we didn't have on Sierra. I mean, I know there's something on Koha, but our staff have looked at both, and they think they're going to stay with the one in Aspen. So they're pretty pleased with it.
Yeah, we do have a genealogy department with some historical documents and things that we would kind of like to create our own databases and link to that way, but we can't. Once again, there's not enough stuff there to justify using it beyond the Ferberization, and it's just expensive. All right. We got about 3 minutes. Anybody else have anything to add? All right. Thank you all for attending. I will try to do better next month and put together an agenda, but we're all busy right now until things normalize a little bit. It may not happen.
Completely understood.
All right. Thanks for sharing ideas and having the communication. We'll see y'all later.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.